conviction is a victory for every family who has lost a loved one to the black hole of addiction.
I love my job. I wouldn't leave if it weren't for the money, and I'm considering leaving.
Something like Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. That ain't no right-wing play, but it's a great play.
As tens of thousands of Venezuelans protested against President Nicolas Maduro today, opposition leader Juan Guaido has called on the military to let in aid by February 23rd, with or without Maduro's consent. Shipments of food and medicine have been piling up at the border since the government blocked it off on Thursday. More than 2 years after Turkey's government defeated a coup attempt, it's still arresting people because of it, issuing another 1,112 warrants for alleged followers of Fethullah Gulen. The cleric Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan blames for orchestrating the coup. Turkish authorities have arrested 77,000 people, in addition to a purge of 130,000 public sector employees over allegations they're not loyal to the government. Australia's parliament has voted to make it easier for some of the roughly 1,000 migrants currently detained offshore on Nauru and Manus Island to come to the country for medical treatment. The bill, which passed by a single vote, is a historic blow for Prime Minister Scott Morrison's Conservative coalition. It's the first time a government has lost a vote on legislation in the House of Representatives since 1941. Congressional negotiators have come up with a tentative agreement to avoid another government shutdown, one that would allocate $1.375 billion for 55 miles of physical barriers, not the $5.7 billion for 200 miles of steel and concrete that President Trump was hoping to hear.
Am I happy at first glance? I just got to see it. The answer is no, I'm not. I'm not happy. But am I happy with where we're going? I'm thrilled.
The most notorious drug kingpin in the world is going away for life. Today, a federal jury in Brooklyn convicted Joaquín Guzmán, better known to the world as El Chapo, on all 10 counts of his indictment. Those include engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise, conspiracy to manufacture and distribute cocaine, heroin, meth, and weed, firearms charges, and conspiracy to launder drug money. The trial went forward under near lockdown, and that makes sense. Wherever Chapo goes, violence follows. And wherever he's imprisoned, he tends to escape. Inside the courtroom, prosecutors from the Eastern District of New York offered a staggering range of evidence, including wiretap phone calls, intercepted text messages, and Chapo's own handwritten notes. So it wasn't surprising that the jury found him guilty. What was surprising was that it took them so long, 6 days of deliberations. Part of the delay may have just been that the jury wanted to be thorough with such a complicated case and so much evidence. But the other factor is that count one of his indictment was incredibly complicated, with 27 different violations for the jury to consider.
He was presumed guilty. This was not a case where we had a defendant presumed innocent. He was presumed guilty. I don't blame
Chapo's defense lawyers tried to frame the government's case as a personal crusade against a popular villain, and they said afterwards that the case was tried in the media.
Why did you take it if you knew it was a losing case?
You know what? Maybe I'm just a fool. And I feel that in America, I don't get to choose my clients all the time. I have to take people as I see them, and I have to fight to the death for people that perhaps other people don't want to fight for. And I'm proud of that.
I was in the courtroom for almost all 44 days of the trial, and it was usually a circus. Reporters were lining up as early as 2 a.m. in freezing temperatures and snowstorms to get one of the coveted seats inside the courtroom. In the end, there were some legal nuances. The jury asked to review testimony from more than a half dozen witnesses, and for a while there, it looked like the government's slam dunk case might be falling apart. But then, just after noon today, the jury sent word that they had reached a verdict, and the government got one of its biggest victories, and maybe its only victory, in the war on drugs that it always seems to be losing.
This conviction is a victory for the American people who has suffered so long and so much, while Guzmán made billions pouring poison over our southern border.
Chapo looked stunned as the verdict was read, and he turned and locked eyes with his wife, who flashed him a thumbs up and fought back tears as he was escorted out of the courtroom. Chapo won't be sentenced until June, but we already know that he's going to get life with no parole because it's a mandatory sentence under count 1 of his indictment. Chapo's lawyers say they're going to appeal the conviction, but that's probably not going to succeed. He's almost certainly going to spend the rest of his days at ADX Florence, a federal supermax prison in Colorado known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. The prison already houses another powerful Mexican drug kingpin, along with spies, terrorists, and gang leaders. Inmates at Florence are isolated from each other in solitary confinement, and they have limited contact with the outside world. No prisoner has ever escaped, but then again, they've never had an inmate quite like El Chapo.
Representatives from Denver's Union of Public School Teachers showed up to renegotiate their salaries today at the city's Central Library, an appropriate place to argue that Denver can do more to appreciate what they do. The teachers went on strike Monday for the first time in 25 years, putting pressure on the district to come up with an agreement quickly. The union is the 8th to strike in a year, and with walkouts looming in districts in Oakland, Ohio, and West Virginia, they're not likely to be the last.
Membership in the Denver Teachers Union has exploded in recent years. And the reason why is simple. While the cost of living in Denver has gone way up, teachers' salaries have not. They actually make less than their peers in nearby districts, where it's cheaper to live. Rebecca Hendricks, who teaches at a high school downtown, joined the union just last year.
Why are you going on strike?
The main reason is that teachers in Denver for years have been lacking a professional pay. It's been a struggle to finally feel like I have my feet under me, and barely. And I'm 33 years old. And I've been in this career for a while. I have a master's degree as well. I still have to have a roommate, don't have any extra money, any savings. So if something goes wrong, I'm in trouble.
The union and the district have been negotiating for 15 months. They've agreed to a new starting salary of $45,800, a more than $2,500 bump. And the district offered to spend $20 million more on their pay overall.
Just stop for a minute. You're so insultive sometimes when it comes to this.
I would think that people wouldn't feel as desperate.
But the sticking point wasn't just how much teachers made.
They won't pay us! Shut it down!
It was the question of how their pay is determined that led the negotiations to break down last weekend.
The district can have some time. They can have until Tuesday.
Denver has a system called ProComp, which gives bonuses to teachers based on how well their students do on tests and other metrics. It was one of the first cities in the US to introduce merit pay for teachers in 2005. The idea quickly became mainstream and spread to major cities like Chicago and New York. Even the union supported ProComp back when it started.
Our school!
Jeff Buck, a math teacher at Denver South High School, was one of the union officials who helped design the plan. But ProComp didn't lead to clear improvements in teacher or student performance. What it did do, Buck says, was give the district an excuse to pay teachers less to begin with.
The bonus changes, or you no longer qualify for the bonus, and so you find that your salary may fluctuate by thousands of dollars a year. That's a real strain on people's budgets, and it's been very, very stressful for a lot of teachers.
So this dispute between the union and the district over incentive pay and performance pay, is there a sort of underlying philosophical difference about how teachers ought to be compensated?
Yeah, I think there is. It's kind of a corporate idea, right? That you pay people bonuses to incentivize certain behavior. I'm just not convinced that is really applicable. Like, this is a different situation, right? We're not in a for-profit situation. We're not trying to drive people to create, to add to our bottom line, right? This is a human service organization. And some people are motivated by money, but I think that for the most part, people understand that we're not here to get rich.
The union doesn't want to get rid of the bonuses entirely, because that would mean losing $33 million in state funding that's tied to the program. But it does want to reduce them in favor of salary hikes for everyone and regular raises that teachers can depend on. The district says that it's already agreed to a lot.
The goal of negotiations is for us to get closer to the middle. DPS is way past the middle in terms of what we've offered at this point.
But it refuses to budge on one specific bonus, which goes to teachers who work in high-poverty schools. There's conflicting research on whether that incentive actually works to recruit and retain them. But the district wants to increase it anyway. And Allison Corbett, an English teacher, says that's the right move.
Why did you not walk out today?
So this is like a really, really hard moment. I am pro-union. The union is advocating for higher pay, as well it should. But the work of a teacher in a segregated school, in like a school that serves low-income kids, is just different than the work of a teacher at an affluent school.
If you were to lose this bonus that you get for teaching at this school, would you leave? Would you go teach at a different school?
No, I don't feel like my vocation is to teach affluent students. And I mean, I'm 33, this is my 8th year in the district in public education, period. So like, how will I feel when I'm 42 and my daughter's a teenager and she's like shouting at me, and like, will I have less emotional energy to give? I mean, I can speak to where I am now, but like, maybe it becomes more of a calculation down the road.
Some teachers think that calculation needs to happen now. Rebecca Hendricks recently got into a program to learn software engineering. Whether or not she goes depends on how the strike ends.
I love my job. I wouldn't leave if it weren't for the money, and I'm considering leaving.
So the stakes of this strike are pretty high for you. I mean, the outcome of the strike might determine whether this is the end of your teaching career or not.
Yes, I don't think I'm the only one either, though.
An Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is now Africa's second deadliest. But doctors are saving patients, and those survivors are now playing an essential role in caring for the sick.
Même si j'entre dans l'équipe, pas de problème. Je ne peux pas porter les PPE comme les autres qui n'ont pas été guéris ou bien qui n'ont pas été malades.
Wemba Kambale Kikopo was one of the first Ebola survivors in the city of Beni. He contracted the virus from his wife, who died last September. Now, back at the same clinic that treated him, Kikopo has found work as a patient guardian who can care for the sick because he's now immune from the virus.
Il vient de dire qu'il est ici depuis, ça fait au moins 3 jours. Il vomissait beaucoup et il faisait de la diarrhée. Aujourd'hui, ça commence à finir.
Para mimi napa contaminé na virusi yenyewe.
Tu as perdu au moins 2 filles et ta famille et ton grand frère. Il dit vraiment c'est insupportable. Moi j'ai dit aussi j'ai perdu ma femme. Je ne supporte pas. Mais aujourd'hui j'ai commencé à supporter. Patienter, ça va passer.
Patient guardians also provide simple human contact, a critical need, especially for Ebola's youngest victims. This outbreak started in the eastern DRC in August, just a week after authorities declared the end of another epidemic in the West. That outbreak killed 33 people. This one has killed more than 500.
Clearly, we can't become complacent. We understand very well that we still have a lot to do to stabilize and bring the situation under control. The greatest risk, which is related to insecurity, continues to be a factor.
Roads are often too dangerous for medical response teams to reach the sick and stop them from spreading the disease. For more than a decade, the eastern DRC has been a battleground for an Islamist militant group fighting government forces, and the power vacuum allows gangs to loot and massacre with impunity.
Il faut compatir avec les communautés qui ont perdu des gens, qui sont massacrés. Pendant ces jours-là, les communautés sont un peu plus furieuses. Lorsque le village est attaqué, il y a aussi déplacement des personnes qui sont encore en incubation. Donc les malades se déplacent et la maladie se déplace d'un village à un autre.
That's why one of the main initiatives is teaching people how to prevent infection, often at Sunday Mass, where most locals gather. Kikopo is trying to protect his children from the disease that killed their mother. He's raising 5 kids alone.
Bwana kama unisha foto mama, akasema iko foto ya nani? Asema mama, nisema meko wapi? Bwana ninyamaza. Baada bakubwa tu mimi nabambia sema mama yuko wapi? Akasema no. Mama yetu ashaka kumbe mnajua ni mama ashaka. Bate Ebola group ya Bonjoi kule yote iko bate Ebola tu na kupanda pale hiyo. Kumbe mimi maisha yangu kubie sasa tu ile defo mesa bonde unapokea franga na fulani sasa. Bibi imetolea chakula na franga haiko tena.
So we'll have the same, lights, whatever they are, when people are bringing furniture out.
That's it. Okay.
Robert Cooperman is the founder of Stage Right Theatrics,
Put that right here, fellas.
a theater company that specializes in conservative plays.
Like, what's a liberal play then?
A liberal play, I've seen many of these, takes the position, first of all, that people on the right are a bunch of Midwestern bumpkins. They're intolerant. They need to be educated. More and more you're seeing plays where the white male is a problem, And I think what's happened is that has become so ingrained in the arts, it's second nature now.
Columbus, Ohio is the front line for the latest push by conservatives to win the culture war. Actors and playwrights who voted for Trump don't feel welcome on the live theater stage.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Stage Right Theatrics' 3rd annual Conservative Theater Festival. Thank you so much for coming, and don't forget our motto, disagreement does not equal hate. Thank you so much and enjoy.
For the last time, I don't agree with your take about the Baltimore riots.
Are you telling me you don't feel bad for any of those innocent people that were murdered?
Will you just please stop with your ridiculous liberal guilt trips?
It's only a guilt trip you have something to feel guilty about.
Disagreeing with you about who is and who isn't a criminal does not make me heartless.
Maybe not, but it does make you wrong.
The classics of American theater are generally allegories. Pieces where the characters on stage make sweeping points about society through subtlety and metaphor. These are not those kind of plays.
We agreed we wouldn't make each other miserable.
Sorry, I got sick.
Shows include a play about a woman who dies alone because she and her boyfriend didn't get married.
Dad shot the guy and saved all our lives. That deadbeat got patched up on the taxpayers' dime, and we're probably all still paying for his upkeep.
A family that learns the value of gun ownership.
Am I crazy?
Sometimes. But I don't really think about that kind of thing much because I'm...
Dead?
Yes. Thank you for saying that. It is the one incontrovertible thing. I am dead.
And a man who's made to regret a one-night stand that ended in abortion by the ghost of the aborted fetus.
You look shocked.
Backstage, this is nothing short of revolutionary. These are theater people, and they say these plays offer them a rare opportunity to express their political opinions.
I'm an actor. Yeah. Okay? If you pay me, I will walk out on the stage in a cow's skin thong and recite Shakespeare. I don't care, because it's not for me to censor what the audience can see. And I'm very old-fashioned in the sense, here's my motto: respect the theater, respect yourself, and respect your audience. Everything else is just bullshit.
And theater's theater. I've done things with our LGBTQRSTUVWXYZ theater that performs just across the hall. We've all seen shows through a gay lens, through a trans lens, through a divorced family lens, through all those things, and that's great. But you should also be able to have one through a cisgender nuclear family lens.
That lens, cisgender nuclear family, wasn't exactly boffo at the box office. 15 people were in the audience. But the show must go on.
Benjamin Franklin, at the conclusion of the Constitutional Convention 1787, was asked, "What have you wrought?" He replied, "A republic if you can keep it." And we intend to keep it. God bless America.
If you've got a really good play, it really doesn't matter if it's left-wing or right-wing.
Well, it matters to you.
It does, yeah, I guess, right now. But I'm saying something like Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. That ain't no right-wing play, but it's a great play. I don't know that we've got the great right-wing Arthur Miller yet.
Yeah. The festival was the kickoff for Stage Right Theatrics' first full season. This year, a lot of conservative theater will be performed in Columbus.
So, how do you think it went?
I think it went well. One of the things I most appreciate, the feedback that I was getting, was that they felt that the plays were of a high caliber and that they weren't, one young lady said to me, it didn't hit you over the head.
So this is the beginning of something.
Exactly.
And that, what's the end of it, if you could choose? Like, I mean, what do you hope the end is?
The end would be where conservative theater doesn't get the shaking reaction from people, and that it's just theater,